Well, it's another one of those touched by heaven moments within Touched by Heaven. Right now, I'm preparing to give a 3-night mission at a local parish known as Saint Thérèse. This Saint Thérèse, otherwise known as Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, but locally it's called Saint Thérèse. So I'm thinking, okay, this would be a good week to just kind of go back into the archives here. And I do my podcast roulette thing. We're at 400 episodes. I just spin it and I end up on 284. Okay, that's good. 2.5 years ago. Okay, haven't heard that one for a while. And it's about Saint Thérèse of Lisieux. I call that confirmation about the little flower and the little way to sainthood. It's a great episode. Enjoy.
So I walked in the foyer, and on the dining room table in a little vase was one single fully blooming yellow rose. And I was like, how did that get there? It wasn't there when I left.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide. And we see God, we see his hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. And we do that with these stories of angels and prophetic dreams and visions and near-death experiences. And this particular episode, Yellow Roses, being in our title. Yellow roses, I think about yellow roses, and I go back early on in these episodes. I remember it was Linda, my hygienist, as it turns out. She was telling this story about yellow roses. She and her 4 sisters, there were 5 of them who had lost their mom. They were walking on the beach, and they're praying to God, and they're praying to their mom, saying, it's the old, just give us a sign that you're okay, Mom. Just give us a sign. And they're walking along the beach, and they find a single yellow rose. And it's like, wow, look at this. This is a sign because Mom, she grew these award-winning yellow roses. She was in competition with these roses, and she had won. And it's like, there's a rose. And they walked on further, and there was a second rose, and a third, and a fourth, and a 5th rose, all of which had washed up somehow on the beach. So every single one of these daughters, these sisters, every single one had a single yellow rose, and they dried them and pressed them and have them today. And it's just beautiful how God is so merciful with his signs from heaven that all is well. Mom, we got Mom. It's all good. It's all good. And that does tie these yellow roses to our episode today with Catherine.
Hello?
A little fanfare, please, for Catherine.
Yay!
Yay. Okay, where are you?
I'm in Boston, outside of Boston.
But you weren't born there.
No.
You don't have the full Boston thing. I don't hear any pock in the car thing going on.
No.
And how did you find us?
I was just looking for kind of uplifting podcasts, and I happened upon it. And it wasn't that long ago. It was about 6 months ago. And I just got hooked. I started listening to all of them. And it also made me feel good to know that, other people had experiences. Sometimes it's hard to talk about them because people think you're a little nuts. All these people are giving testimony, and, I should too. I shouldn't. My things are little. To me, they're very, important.
Little? Did Catherine use the word little? Excellent. That ties us to more yellow roses. It does. Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, she had 4 sisters. All of them became sisters, nuns. And she was known as Little Flower. She loved flowers, and she saw herself as a flower in Christ's garden, but nothing magnificent. Again, she wanted to be a saint, but she knew that she felt she didn't have the stuff of great saints, miracle stories and martyrdom. No, so she sees herself as a little flower, and how she may not be as great as a rose or a lily, but she could still serve God in little ways. And she was just every day, the little ways, the washing a dish made the world better, sweeping the floor, a smile for someone helped make the world a better place in Christ's world. That's how she approached every day in those little ways.
So the first story, my mother was very devoted to Saint Teresa, the Little Flower of Lisieux.
Okay.
And I got, through her, I would do the novenas to her too, because I liked seeing the signs.
So often when people pray for Saint Therese's intercession for her prayers, they'll receive their answer in the form of flowers, as Catherine did.
And my mother would always ask for a yellow rose because red roses was Mary. So to her, she would ask for a yellow rose when she did it. And I would do it here and there if I had a big test or whatever. And I think, I always remember seeing something. But my mother passed away suddenly in 2004, and I was devastated. It was a sudden heart situation, and oh, it was terrible. My mother's brothers came from Ireland for the funeral, and about a week after the funeral, before they went back, I was just in a fog, like didn't know what was going on, just made it through that week by the skin of my teeth. So my father said, I'm going to bring them up to the grave before we leave for the airport. Do you want to come with us? And it was like a little rainy day. I said, no, I don't want to go up to the grave. So they left, and I went out driving in my car, and I pulled into a back road where I knew it was private. I just pulled the car over and I just sobbed. I just sobbed like for the whole week that I was holding it in, just dealing with everybody and the plans. And I prayed to Saint Teresa and my mother. I said, Mom, if you're with Saint Teresa and you're with God, please just send me a yellow rose. Just make it very clear to me that you're with them. So I went back home, and when I got home, my father had already left for the airport. And when you walk in the door from the foyer, you can see the dining room table through the arch. So I walked in the foyer, and on the dining room table, in a little vase, was one single fully blooming yellow rose. So I obviously was like flabbergasted. And when I was like, how did that get there? It wasn't there when I left. And so when my father got home from the airport, I said, where did this yellow rose come from? And he said, the weirdest thing happened up at the grave. And there were a lot of flowers still on the grave because it was very fresh. He said, this one yellow rose just spoke to me, and I just felt like I wanted to bring it home. So I picked it up and brought it home.
I love it. I love it. She always comes through. She always comes through.
I told him, and we both just started, embracing and just crying and happiness, just knowing mom's in heaven.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I mean, that's something that you'll just never lose,
Never. And when I have some dark times, I always think about that. But I've had one recently too. Another quick one with that is the next rose story just happened recently. I've had rose stories throughout the years, but I do the Saint Teresa novena every year. And, for whatever the intentions are. And this year, I had intentions or something that's, been weighing on me. I ended the novena on the 1st, as I always do.
Because her feast day is what, October 1st? Is that hers?
Yeah.
And what a lot of people do, as you did, you whatever your prayer is, whatever your big prayer is, and you can say obviously the novena anytime during the year, but the hope is that the end of it all, on the 9th day, sometimes you'll get that yellow rose or whatever, a rose, no, not necessarily in particular color. Yours go yellow.
So about a week before that, I was cleaning out a closet, and I saw this, little box, and it said picture frames on it. I'm like, I don't need any picture frames. I have enough. Let me go through this and donate it, because I'm bringing donations down next week. So I left it in the living room in the corner. And then about a week later, which was the 1st of October, I was watching 60 Minutes. I said, you know what? I'm going to go through this box while I'm watching it. And it said picture frame. So I opened it up. One picture frame. Oh, that's a beautiful picture frame, but I don't need another one. Same, another one, another one, another one. And then I put my hand in the bottom of the box, and then I feel this like long sort of wrapped object that was definitely not a picture frame. So I picked it up and I unwrapped it, and it was a porcelain yellow rose. I have no idea where it came from.
Wow.
I do not remember getting it.
Was it the 1st itself that you
on
found
the
it?
1st?
Wow.
On the very day, yeah. And that gave me hope,
Yeah. Well, I would say more hope to come. Here with Catherine on this episode of Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. Quick Patreon shout out for you, Michelle Lewis. You've done it. You've joined the family. You know what it's all about. You do. Thanks for making this go week to week. Need the fuel in 2 different ways. Need the stories, of course. And what is yours? I'm waiting. come here to touchbyheaven.net, and also, of course, the financial support through patreon.com. So thanks for that, Michelle, for joining the family. All right, and if you'd like to do the same, you come here to this episode or go to patreon.com directly and search for Trapper Jack. All right, very good. All right, let's get back to Catherine here on Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God.
A friend of mine, a childhood friend of mine, is in France this week, and they were at Lisieux, and she was sending me pictures of the basilica, and she lit candles for me. And I was like, wow, this is a real Saint Teresa moment.
Yeah. Because the saints are our friends. That's because sometimes people outside the Catholic faith don't quite get the saint thing. They're friends who have done just a stellar job with life and staying close to God or finding God somewhere along the way. And so they're role models, if you will. Yeah, you can go straight to Jesus, but sometimes it's a little easier to, as we say, as opposed to looking directly at the sun, sometimes it's easier to look at the moon to see the reflection of that light. And Saint Thérèse is just a beautiful example. And she wrote this book, and it went worldwide about the little way to heaven. And
Story of a Soul. I've read it.
Yeah, and she is just a wonderful example of how to approach the day. You don't have to do major, huge, massive things. Just whatever's in front of you that particular moment on that particular day.
As you know, she was only 24 when she died, and it's amazing, how much she went through, how much she did. I mean, in that short period of time, and she surrendered herself to God, which is, I find hard sometimes. I have a monkey mind.
Well, don't we all, just jumping around? Well, one of the things she said, which I just love, was she talked about, I think, and you might know this better than I do, but I'm the paintbrush, but I'm in the hands of Christ. Christ is the artist. I'm just the paintbrush, and he's the one. He's the one, painting the picture, and I love the fact that he's using me. And so she's just willing to do whatever Jesus wants.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful. She really is. She is. And I love the Blessed Mother too. I didn't do the rosary for many years, but I've gone back to it. I went to Medjugorje with my mom not long after I graduated from college. I was living in New York and working there, young, just out of college. And she told me, it was right before the war in the early 90s. She told me about this trip she was going on. She asked me if I would go. My mom and I were very close, and I would go on any trip with my mom. And I said, sure, I'll go. And, typical 20-something girl, I was like, oh, we're stopping in Dubrovnik for a night. I know they have good boots there. We can go boot shopping. And, that's how I was kind of looking at it. And back then, there weren't a lot of hotels. I don't know if there were any. We stayed with a family, and we were part of a group. And wow, the minute I got there, I just felt peace. It was amazing. And I did have a few experiences there. The first night we went to a rosary service on, I think it was Cross Mountain. That's where the cross is, right? I'm
Right,
sorry.
yeah, that's the taller one.
Yeah. It was dark. We got back, and two of the women that were in our group, one of the women said, oh, the cross looks so beautiful lit up. The other woman said, it wasn't lit up. And I said, oh, I saw it lit up. And my mom didn't see it lit up. I said there was like glowing gold lights. And, we went back and forth, and I know what I saw. So that really blew me away.
How many people have looked at that cross and seen different things? I have a friend who went there, and she's in the first night she was there, she looked at me, oh, look how it's all lit up in red lights. Oh, that's interesting. There are no red lights. You're seeing gold lights. There are no gold lights.
It was sort of an orangey color.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that was the first thing that touched me. And then the other thing that happened, we were at the church and it was overflowing. So we were outside, like sitting on the outside, listening through the speakers, and the rain had just stopped. And all of a sudden, everybody was saying, look up, look up. And I looked up, and there was the sun spinning. I just can't even believe it. It was so moving. And so that really touched me. I was so peaceful there Then when I got back to New York, of course, I got back into my life again. I didn't go to church every Sunday. I just was in my me, 20 something life.
Mm-hmm.
And I also had some issues with rules and stuff with the church. And, I think we all go through that. I never fully left, but I had one foot in.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Um,
I completely understand. Yeah.
I have a few more stories. They're not Saint Teresa related, but they're just straight to God, really. um, my dad, and I was taking care of my dad his last few years of life. He was elderly and declining, and we were living in a townhouse after he sold his house, and we had a very bad snowstorm. It was ice and snow, and the power went out all over for days. Nobody that we knew had power, so the whole area was out. But by the second day, I found out that it would be 7 days before the power came on. They had to call in teams from, Canada and all over the place. So I was panicking because I knew my dad couldn't handle it. So I went out, I told him I was going out to charge my phone, which I was. And I started, looking to see if there were any hotels in the area with power and calling people to see if they had power. Nobody had power. I stopped at a few, no power, no power, no power. Went 20 miles out, no power. Or then they started being sold out already. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew he wasn't going to make it for 7 days in that without heat. So on the way back home, I ended up pulling into the parking lot of the first hotel, which was the closest to where we lived, into the parking lot. I'm just going to give it one more shot. So I went in and they said, no, we don't have power. And they said 7 days. I said, yeah, I know. So I went out into the car and I just broke down. I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I am out of ideas. Please, God, please just show me what to do. I need help. So I'm sitting there praying, and all of a sudden the guy from the front desk comes running out and he's knocking on my window. I put the window down. He said, the power just came on. He said, the whole place, we have power and we're taking reservations. I ran in, I got 2 rooms. The place was sold out within a half an hour once it spread. I got my dad there. He stayed there comfortably for 6 days until the power came back on. That hotel never lost power again. All the other hotels around had no power.
Wow.
I mean, it really was instant. Like, I was in the car just, I'm out of ideas. I need you to fix this,
And
please.
he's so faithful. God is just so faithful.
He really is. And then about, I guess it was like 2 years after that, or a year or so, my father declined and he was in hospice. It was late August, and they said, he probably has a few days. So all his friends were coming by, and he was kind of in and out of consciousness. He was lasting, and days went by. It's going to be any time now, and it's the 4th, it's the 5th, and I don't know what's happening. And one of his friends came and said a rosary and said he's probably waiting for the Blessed Mother's birthday, September 8th. And I said, well, that's a long time. So on September 8th, my father passed away. He did wait for the Blessed Mother's birthday. When I left the hospital after all the hospice and I was driving home, I was going down the highway and I looked up, and I swear, Trapper, the sun was spinning.
Yeah.
Just like it did in Medjugorje. I pulled over and I was looking. I was like, are you kidding me? I said, okay, Mary, he's with you.
It's interesting. Those who have so many people who see it there, then see it when they get back home. Didn't see it
Oh,
before, but once you're there, it's like it's always with you.
you want to say, I want to imprint this on my mind because I'm not going to believe it myself. But it was so beautiful and it was so comforting. And I just knew that my dad was with the Blessed Mother
Do you
and
remember how
with
long you were staring at the sun?
for a long time, a few minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like
Yeah.
a long time.
And you're not supposed to do that. but you
Right.
could. But
Right.
you could.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So that was another comforting story. And then the one other one I have, I've never told anyone this, but I've heard a few stories on your podcast that reminded me of it. When I was a teenager, I'd say about 17, I was driving home one night and it was kind of rainy. And this road, it's a main road, but just one lane each way, so not like a super highway, but a main road. And in order to get to the street that I wanted to turn on to go down to where I lived, you have to cross the other side, but there's a break. You're allowed to, but you have to be really careful because there's no light and it's a hill, so you got to watch the cars coming. But it's actually easier at night because you see the lights coming up the hill. So I'm waiting there to turn. There's no lights coming up the hill. I make the turn, and all of a sudden I look to my left, like in a split second, and there is a truck with headlights right in the window next to me, like it is on top of me. And I just remember thinking, oh, this is how I die. I'm going to die.
Was this a T-bone kind of thing then? Is he coming into the side of your car?
Right. He's coming. I'm turning to the left, and he's coming in through the passenger side.
Oh.
The lights, and it's a giant truck. Those kind of trucks are usually not on this road. I just saw big headlights in my window, and I just remember thinking, oh, I'm going to die. And then I turned, and all of a sudden I was on the road that I was turning onto. I looked back. There was no truck. I mean, it was gone by then, but I have no idea how I didn't die, or the truck didn't hit me, or there wasn't anything, not a scratch on my car.
It was there, and suddenly it wasn't there.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't there at first because I saw no lights coming up the hill. And in a split second, this truck was next to me, about to go through me. I mean, I would have been dead in a second. Um, and I have no idea what happened. I just know I was on the road.
What do you think happened? I mean, look, because you're looking back, and now you don't even see where it should. Should you have been able to see the truck as you look back?
Yes. Yes. Because I stopped like right when I turned. I would have seen the end of the truck.
Do you think the truck was ever there?
I'm not even sure.
I mean, I have no doubt you saw a truck.
I heard a truck too.
You heard it too.
Yeah, it was beeping like, ee!
And then suddenly,
I think
wow.
and I never really told anyone because I thought, oh, that's weird.
Well, but you've heard how many times this kind of thing does come up on the podcast.
That's why I'm telling you, because I wouldn't think it would be even like people wouldn't even believe it. And then when I heard these other stories, I'm like, yeah, I understand that story.
You know, I always talk about how everything in the Bible is still happening today. And you look at a story like that and you go, well, where, well, look at Jesus himself. They were going to stone him. They were walking him to the cliff, and he was about to have a head-on collision with the ground way below. And if that didn't kill him, they just pummel him with rocks. And the Bible says he turned and walked through the people and away, because it wasn't his time yet. There wasn't time for the cross yet. So that to me is the same equation of things going through things when it's not yet your time.
Yeah, I mean, that truck had to have gone through me. It was on top of me. Like it would not have. Nothing hit my car.
Yeah, and you had the sound and everything.
Oh yeah, I had the beeping like. Ee!
Wow.
I just, I remember what I was wearing that day. I remember everything. It was and I remember getting home and thinking, I'm not going to tell my parents this because they're going to be afraid for me,
You said you were a teenager then?
Yeah, I was only about 17.
Yeah.
So I still remember it. And really it's your podcast and these other stories that have brought it back to life for me, because I remember thinking, wow, that happened. And another thing about your podcast, like I hear these stories from people and I believe them, but there are so many people in this world who just don't want to know. They say, oh, it's coincidence. It's this, it's that. I know, when I was a child, a classmate of mine had a near death experience before all this stuff was made, known. And, he was very young and he saw his brother who had passed away, and lights and all the things you see. And I remember, people mocked him, and he was just a child. So I guess that made me feel like you really, you can't change people's minds if they don't want to believe. I can just testify to what I know is true to
I
me.
think we've been, I think we're almost trained not to believe. Because even within the church, where, the church shouldn't be boring. These stories should be within the church of what an angel did, or we all prayed and, Bob got healed, or some sort of divine intervention should be more welcome within the church than anywhere. And we're more skeptical than anyone, so it looks dry. Sometimes church can look so dry. And we've managed to take this dazzling, awesome God who's shooting off the flare gun to show us how much he loves us and inviting us into a relationship and all this stuff. And we go, don't talk about that stuff. And it's like, no, the early church was booming under the threat of jail and being killed because they had all of this going for them. They knew there were angels and sharing each other's stories and everything. And we were being trained to keep our mouths shut and not to believe. And I just think we've done such a disservice to God.
Did you see the story after the Maui fires of that Catholic church
Of
that was
course.
not touched?
Of course. Fire burnt everything but didn't touch the church. Amazing.
I've seen other stories of that, and they don't seem to catch on.
Yeah. How ironic. How odd. And what's funny is that I think the priest house burned down. Everything else burned down, but the church stood, Also, it reminded me of the only approved Marian apparition, Mary appearing, in the U.S. I mean, and I say approved because the Catholic Church investigated for however long they investigated, is in Wisconsin, where I want to say 1871 for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know what, I can't remember for sure. Massive fire in Wisconsin. 2,500 people die. It's burned, I don't know, millions of acres, whatever the deal was. But where Mary had appeared a couple of years before and where a church had been built, it didn't touch it. It went all around it. It's like this oasis in the midst of this massive, horrifying fire. Here is this church, and people went to the church, went inside, and they weren't touched. This is made out of wood. This is in the 1800s, There's no reason why this fire shouldn't just go just bellowing through and just take it down too. Didn't touch it.
That was amazing. And,
isn't it?
Even in Medjugorje through the war, that town was not touched.
Yeah, it's one of the places bombs didn't fall, right? Should have.
Right.
Yeah, target didn't fall.
I remember Mostar was right next door, and they got pretty pummeled. And are you going back to Medjugorje anytime?
We don't know. Yeah. And there's also kind of that tug of the Holy Land too, like on the last episode with Tracy. What did you think of that, by the way? I'm getting interesting reaction to Tracy and her husband Nick going.
I was surprised they went, but I felt like I remember her from another podcast, and I know she's very, very faithful, and she gets messages, and if she felt the need to go, I think she should have. I think they were brave. It's heartbreaking what's happening over there.
I took it as they were obedient.
Yeah.
And as Nick said, it just kept stretching him. What are we doing? Because, the government's saying don't go. And those two paratroopers from Israel going back to their country to join the war, they're saying don't go. And the pastor says, we're going. A guy who has seen bombs falling all around him when he's been in different places in the world is a guy saying, hey, where's your faith? And it's like, well, because Beth and I, we've had this conversation too, and I said, "You don't go, do you?" And she goes, "I'm not leaving the garage. Are you kidding me?" And I'm going, But again, if it's an obedience thing where it's like, no, and there's no question to me that God wanted them there for whatever His purposes, for whatever stretching, for perhaps something down the road, because if this truly is page 1 of chapter 1 of this final book that's going to play out over some years, as many prophets do out there, then this could have been a way of stretching them so they'll be more prepared to go through whatever is coming, their direction. So I look at it that way too. We all want to be comfortable.
She seems like someone who has very special relationship and, can discern what is God's will. It's very scary. I just, sometimes I can't even look at the news. I just can't. I just pray. That's what I do. I pray. And I just want to thank you again. You're really doing God's work, and I hope that you continue to get more stories. They're just so uplifting. I've probably listened to some of them 4 and 5 times. Just I felt the need to do this because I think the more people that do it, it's going to help people.
So pray tell, what is the takeaway?
I guess the takeaway would be that, Jesus and Mary and the saints are a really great team. Of course, Jesus is at the top, but we do have these people to go to, and just to take in the signs when you get them. And it's easy to be. It's easy to say, "Oh, this is a coincidence. That is a coincidence." But I think that takes more effort than actually saying, wow, this is real. So
yeah, I hear you. That's beautiful. Yeah. Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate the stories, the flowers. And the beauty of saints, and I think of this as, it's like companies. If you're in business, how many times have you been told, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to see someone who's already been successful and kind of do what they do and do your own version of it. And there you go. Hopefully the same results or similar results. And that's what the saints are. To me, it's like they're friends. They've been there. They've done that. What did they do? And the beauty of Saint Thérèse is the little way. Thank you, Saint Thérèse, for that. All right. And thank you for listening here to Touched by Heaven. Appreciate your support again through patreon.com. And we thank you for your stories. What's yours? Angel encounter, divine intervention, prophetic dream, vision, near-death experience? What is it? Let me know here at touchedbyheaven.net. What say we do this again next week here at Touched by Heaven? Everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack. I'm Trapper Jack.
Yay!